All right, it is time to build a kitchen table. And I'm just going to use some barn wood. Don't really have an exact plan that I'm going to use. I'm just going to kind of wing it. I wanted to use this pretty big board that we found in the barn. It is 15.5 inches wide. This one over here is just 12 inches wide. So that's 2 and 3.5 inch wide table. I think I'm going to go a little bit wider than that. And I think I'm going to go about 6 feet in length. So this guy is just over 6 feet, so that'll be a good reference. So I'm going to start with sanding it and get another board, sand the 3 boards, and kind of play with it and see how it goes. That is probably one of the best leaf blowers, the 780 CFM Pro. I'll put a link down below for you guys. That thing is awesome. I'm trying to just do a basic layout to see how this is going to fit or not fit. My thought is the chairs should be able to push in all the way. So I don't know if we're going to seat 3 by 3 like this, or if we're going to seat 2 by 2 by 1 1. Probably like this. I think this is a better layout for this room. So now I just have to get the right positioning. I think it's a big enough table. That is 6 feet by 3 feet. And that's enough to where the chairs can be pushed in all the way, but when you're sitting, you're not going to be pushed in all the way, so you should have enough leg room, I would think. And then when we walk in, that feels good. I like that. I think this is how it's going to be. So we're pretty much almost centered to the double doors there and pretty much centered to this window here. It's about the layout that I'm looking at. So I'm gonna have to do something about how I adjust the lighting, because that little blue dot right there, that's where the power for the dining room table is, and that's not directly underneath this. So I'm gonna have to figure that out. But I think that's gonna work out pretty good. I think that'll work. All right, so I cut a piece of really nice plywood, I think it's walnut plywood, to a 1/2 inch less than 6 feet in length and a 1/2 inch less than 3 feet in width. So that way these boards will overhang just a little bit here on the corners, and I'm going to use a router to make that edge not so sharp. And essentially I have a 1/4 inch on all sides, which is not much, but we're at a 1/4 inch about right there, and we're at 1/4 inch about right there, a little bit more than a 1/4 inch, a little bit less. That's not a straight compared to the wood. That's all right. Let's just see what we get when we put this up to that. And you're probably wondering, why am I doing a backer board? And that's for a couple reasons. I want to, when I put polyurethane on this, I want to catch polyurethane between the gaps. And also, I want to stiffen this up a little bit because some of these are a little bit warped. So I'll glue them down with some heavy weight on them, and hopefully that will help with some of the warping. So is this going to, I want to redo this one and turn it around. These boards have been drying overnight and they are still not dry enough to continue with the rest of the project. Oh man, that's not square at all. Okay, so there's a big gap right here. So how do I square this up? I may need to cut this backer board a little bit more to shape. So the backer board is square, and you can see there's a little bit of a lip right here, and then there is no lip. This actually, the boards actually overhang the backer board there, and there's a little bit of a lip right here, and it overhangs over here. So I think I need to scoot everything over a little bit. Yeah, that's just not going to work. So I'm trying to piece these so they're together, but that leaves me gaps. These gaps there and that gap there. So do I want to just move this over so it doesn't have a gap and then have a big gap here? Move that over there so there's no gap, and then just have a big gap there. I think what I need to do is make it a little bit more narrow. All right, one of the things about this table is it's not going to be perfectly square, and that's fine. I want it to be kind of a rustic barnwood table. So I think what I'm going to do is I figured out the layout that I want these boards to be in. There's some gaps here and here and over here and here, which I'm fine with. So I am going to measure this layout here and then transfer that measurement onto the backer board, cut it, and then move on to the next step. So I think that's how I'm going to do this. And overall, it'll be just under 3 feet in width. This side over here is, it's 3.5 feet in width there. And here it is 1/2 inch shorter than 3 feet. So yeah, it is not square by any means. And then it is 6 feet this way, 6 feet, and 6 feet. So it'll be a bit of a trapezoid. I know it doesn't look like much for you guys, but I think that is how I'm going to have it. Okay, I think that'll be okay. All right, a little light sanding on 220 grit before I stain this top. So this is the top here, and I'm just going to stain where the boards are going to meet and at the edges. I don't need to stain the whole thing because obviously the board's going to be covering most of it. It's actually quite a nice piece of plywood with, I guess it probably has like a veneer of maple. I doubt the whole thing is made of maple. A veneer top and a veneer bottom. Now, I'm going to stain the bottom of this also, and I will do the entire surface because that will be visible for anybody that looks under the table. Okay, so off camera, I mitered, miter, is that the right word? I put a texture on the edge of this with the with a router that I have. So that's kind of a cool little pattern. So that way you don't smack your top of your legs or your knees with a sharp edge, and plus it looks nice. So I'm gonna go ahead and just stain that also. And then I'm gonna let this dry, and then I'll flip it over and we'll get the bottom and make that look really nice. This isn't looking as nice because it's plywood, but it still works. Okay, the top and bottom and the sides, you can't really see that, can you? They are stained and it is dry. So now what I need to do is put it on the only flat place on this entire property, and that is here in the living room. Every other place on the property, on the deck, in the driveway, in the carport, the barns, down in the basement, it's not flat. And it's not stiff and sturdy, unlike this floor. This floor is very flat, I know that. So I'm gonna drag it inside, and then we're gonna glue the pieces together. I had marked the top of the board with a pencil to lay out the pieces, and the stain made that disappear. So I'm gonna have to recreate this here. I think I went, yeah, pretty certain that went like that. And then, let's see here, that's the downside. This went like this. I think that's on the edge, outside edge. Just like this. All right, so I'm gonna get the pattern correct and then put a bunch of weight on these boards after I put glue on the back of them. And then hopefully that keeps these things flush to the, this one's pretty warped though. Oh boy. This one is starting to really warp. Yeah, so after spraying the big one with the wood preservative, it's starting to cup. So I wonder if I want to wait put this on the flat ground, put a bunch of weight on it, and let it uncup. Flatten out, I guess, is the better phrase. And then glue it down. I think that might be a better option than try to rush this. Yeah, it's a pretty big hump. I can see it and I can feel it. The rest of these aren't too bad. So I'm going to wait before I glue. I'm going to go ahead and just put these boards down and put a bunch of weight on them and let them flatten out overnight. In this dehumidified room, maybe that'll help. Since I have the dehumidifier running, maybe that will. Actually, this one I'm just gonna do off of the board. Okay, shoot. All right, got a bunch of weight on there, all these tiles and the mortar. So I will flip, I'll wait 12 hours and I'll flip the board over and I'll put the weight back on. So that way I'm pressing at both the cup and the other side of the cup, if that makes sense. These two boards weren't too bad. They're pretty straight, so I just have them pretty much on the ends in the center. So, all right, 12 hours, flip, and then another 12 hours, and then I can work on the next phase of this project. It's been not quite 24 hours. I flipped it over and applied the weight on it. So I want to see if this is making a difference. I'm going to go ahead and take all this stuff off. The amount of times that I have moved these tiles is a little ridiculous. It looks a lot flatter. That's great. Okay, let's see. Oh yeah. That is way better. So that worked. So I'm gonna go ahead and proceed to the next step of gluing this down. Just keep this moving. Keep that from moving. This comes up. Glue. All right, I'm just using heavy duty liquid nails. I may not have enough glue actually. Make sure this is flush. It is right there. All right, it has been just about 24 hours, so it is the moment of truth. See if this glue held everything together. I had thought that I had recorded a time lapse of me taking all that stuff off, but I didn't hit record. So anyway, it's off, it's free and clear. Things seem sturdy. So if I lift, oh my gosh, this is gonna be a heavy table. They are on there solid. That feels good. All right, I got a set of furniture legs. These are, I think they're 28 inches tall. Let's see. Yep, 27.5 inches tall, plus the little feet for them, basically making it 28 inches tall. Now, based on how heavy that table is, I certainly hope that these legs will hold up to the weight. Oops. But these legs are pretty close. These are walnut. So it's about the same that we have for all the other furniture in the house. Since these legs are not going to be in here permanently, this is just temporary, I'm not going to worry too much about them being in perfect position. So I'm just going to put them in for now, and then I can adjust them later. About so. Now they came with these little tiny screws, and I'm going to use a couple of them, but I'm really going to use these bigger screws that I have from another project. Seems pretty solid. Well, that's a good question. We'll lift it up this way like this, but I don't want to rest on the legs. I don't know how strong the legs are. Let me get on that side. Actually, we'll probably slide it a little bit towards, oh my goodness, no, okay. Okay, so we can,
set it on the side and then...
yeah, but I don't want to rest on the legs at all. Okay, I know. We can probably hold from the bottom of the legs if you want to. So, I'm not really sure the best way to do this.
It almost needs something to set it on.
Yeah.
Here.
All right, here we go. Okay, it's gonna need some stabilization on those legs. It's a little wobbly. All right, well there we are. The table is ready for our guests. We actually have some friends coming over for the weekend, and I wanted to have a place for us to eat. So here it is. I think it looks really good. I really like it. It needs to be finished still. I need to seal off the top with polyurethane or something, and then the legs need to be a little bit stiffer. So I might change the way that the legs are done, but that is, yeah, that's where we are for now. Once we know the exact location where we're gonna put the table, I'll put the dining room light in, and that'll look really nice too. So there we are. Yeah, so another video, I'll do the finished work. I'll hang the dining room light. It'll be nice. All right, see you guys on the next video. Bye.